Yes, so we are live.
Yeah, we are live and welcome everybody. Welcome to Life Indeed, the podcast where we discuss about the life the way it is not. I would like Piyush to, go ahead and talk about a little bit about in Life Indeed podcast. Then I would have an honor to introduce our guest today, who is already joined with us. So Piyush,
Thank
over
you.
to you.
Thank you, Tausif. So today it's going to be our 16th episode, and so this is first time it's happening that we are doing a second episode in the same week because of some special arrangements, and we are doing it on Saturday because we need to match the timing with our guest as well. So it's day by day our life indeed podcast family is getting bigger and bigger, and we are really happy the kind of response we are getting. And Ravi sir, if we like to let you know about how we started this podcast. Yeah, so me and Tosif, we both know each other from last 2.5 years, but you'll be really surprised that we have never met personally.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thanks to internet and thanks to our favorite platform, LinkedIn. So we have been talking a lot. We have been discussing a lot, and then something we conclude something which was like that most of the people in life having certain types of experiences which has changed them, which has transformed that. In fact, most of the people have started living a completely different life after having certain types of experiences, right? And we both strongly believe that it's just not about the people who became super successful, but each and every human being is carrying those kind of inspirational and motivational stories. So why can't we bring people like you, me, and then initially we have started sharing our own stories, and then we have started calling other people as well. So likewise we have started this podcast, and today it's our 16th episode, and we are really excited for this journey. Likewise, we are going to keep coming, keep bringing more and more people. So, Tosif, why don't you tell something about our today's guest?
It's an honor for me. To all the people who have joined, first of all, welcome everyone, and to Life Indeed podcast show. Today, we are joined by one of the exceptional leader from IT industry. He is working as a, vice president business marketing with one of the leading telecom provider in Gulf, Etisalat, and he is highly regarded and respected by the people who knows him, including myself. So I remember a time when I used to work with a technical support organization, IOG Technical Services. So I was one of a very, I would say, minuscule part of that. In a domain I was working as a subject matter expert. I remember there was an incident which was very challenging, which occurred, and it was. I'm pretty sure it was going to have a lot of impact on the organization. But I got to know from somewhere. I used to see a lot of emails with people who used to work under Ravi sir's leadership, and not surprisingly, he played a very vital and key role in fixing those issues. And from that time, I had a glimpse that he's somebody who actually loved to lead, and who actually you know uh, try to resolve the problems, and try to help other, try to work for his team. So that had that left an impression on me. Since then I've been following him. Probably he might not be even aware of this, but today I think it's the right time, and I'm really honored and really glad to have him over here. And I would be talking more and more about him, but I would be short of words. So I would love to, I would say that I would invite him without a further ado and ask him to, just talk about a little bit of himself. What does he do? Then we will definitely move on to talk about his life stories, where he started his journey, and it would be, really exciting to know more about him. This is an opportunity for all of us. So over to you, Ravi sir.
Thank you so much, Tasif and Piyush. I think I'm humbled by whatever you said. First of all, before I start, I think congratulations to both of you. What you're doing is amazing. I think we were just talking prior to this call. Trying to help people. Connect with each other, understand experiences, especially people who are in the early stages of their career. I think this is a great initiative. So congratulations on what you're doing, and I think continue
Thank
the
you,
good
sir.
job. Whatever you're doing. I'm sorry, Tausif, I'm not aware of that incident, but again, as I said, I'm humbled with your kind words. For me, it's very very important to do a job correctly and make sure everybody benefits out of it, wherever I am. Like I said, I had a very humble start. I grew up in Delhi, Noida, to be precise, early in my career. Worked with various kind of organizations. Was involved in a lot of startups. Before I moved here. Today, currently I work as vice president business marketing for Etisalat. I'm responsible for the SMB portfolio, pretty large portfolio where we look at all the new products and services for our SMB customers and continue to innovate. That's the key. What we do and impact for our teams as well. So that's a brief background about myself. I would not talk, too much of detail, but I'll let you jump into the questions you might have, or anything which comes to your mind.
So,
Thank you, sir.
yeah, thank you so much for giving your introduction. So, Ravi sir, the very first question usually we ask our guest is to if you can share something about your childhood memories, or if you can talk about some experiences which you had when you were child, or kind of experiences which has impacted you as a as a human being, that
Sure.
or the kind of life which you are living right now. You are working as a vice president. I mean, when you were child, have you ever thought that you will be going to Dubai and will start working as vice president? So what sort of childhood you had?
So I think, for me as a child, I always dreamt big. So that was one of the things. I always had big dreams in terms of, becoming an entrepreneur, doing something different. But, till about, I would say in the school, the life was completely different for me, right? I was not the best student in my class. I was probably the bottom 20%. I never flunked, but that was okay. But I was never interested in the studies which was there, right? For me, I had to find something which I love to do, and that is where
Hmm.
as life happened, when I was, I think, around 16, I came across these computer networking pagers and all those technologies coming in. I did my MCSC, I think, when I was 16. MCSC at that point
Wow.
of time was a big
Oh,
thing.
wow.
And then I was 17 when I did my CCNA and stuff like that, and got into a job.
And this is we are talking about in the year of
96, 97. So I'm 40 now.
At that
oh,
time, it
so,
was a very big
so
thing.
yeah, it was a
wow.
big thing. I was probably one of the very few early days MCSCs in the entire India. But along with school, I realized that the studies, going for and our education system, I don't want to criticize it, but it was more of um, studying and very very theoretical. And for me, it was more practical stuff. I could do things, but I had to look at what made sense for me. What did I love doing? So that is where I found something I really love doing. And at that point of time, I actually joined a company called Aptech, started training people and stuff on similar stuff. I was very shy when I was a student. So most of my friends, I talk to them today, and they just say, we never spoke to you in school." So
Okay.
that's what happens. But when I got into this training job and all, I think I opened a bit more, and then from there I moved on to Wipro and then various other IT organizations and stuff. So pretty like I said, when I was in school, I did not know what to do. It was more of a need for me to find something which I wanted to do, and that is, I think, one of the things which is very very important, to find what you're interested in and continue doing that, which is what helped me a lot. Right, I've changed my field multiple times after that. So I started with that, then I've been in sales, marketing, product development, all kind of fields. As you grow in your life, you need to experiment, you need to do more, but you need to start something and start doing something which you love. In fact, I remember a very interesting story. And this was pre Ayugi, and Ayugi was one of our. It has been a company to remember for me, because it gave me and a lot of people a platform which they could have never got at that point of time, 2007, 2008. I'm talking about there were no startups, there was no, this was the first funded company in UAE, so in India. So, the kind of exposure we got at that point of time to entrepreneurship, to, meeting new people, international exposure, I think that helped a lot. Before joining that company, I used to work for Convergys, and, I left the company. I said, okay, I need to go back. I've reached a stage where I need to just, go and do my master's, because I had not done my master's. So I need to now go in and do an MBA. And I started studying the GMAT when I was 25, 26. So I've had interesting experiences. One thing I want to do is experiment. If I don't change, if I keep doing the same thing for a long time, I completely get fed up of it. So I think that's been a very high level story of my life. Things I remember, the thing when I got first introduced to the computers in the networking stage was very, very, very life changing for me, because if I hadn't done that, maybe I don't know where I would have been. So that was very interesting.
So, how was your first encounter with computers? Like, I mean, what was your experience? Because so I am also 40, so I can literally resonate that 96, 97 was like at that time, if you can just sit on the computer, it's a big thing. Then
Yeah, and
you
that was
go,
happening. My
yeah.
first experience with computer was most of the people, our age would realize that, we used to have, a computer class. They will take you somewhere and, make you sit there for 15 minutes and teach you something in the school. That wasn't the interesting part, right? Interesting part was when you moved out and started doing something else. So, that half an hour cannot give you, and you're, always, looking at computer and say, what will I do in this DOS thing? Good it calculates. So, I really, that wasn't the point. And I think, the interface changes at that time, the Windows coming in, and then, NT coming in, especially for networking and all that was a big change. When you could connect things together and stuff. So my experience, initially was like, okay, what is this? I'm not interested. But, slowly when I, got into doing things, I think it became very, very interesting. So I never went in for a professional computers, engineering or anything like that, because for me, what I was doing was much more satisfying than going and studying. I was actually, I remember one of the cases when I was, I think, about 17 or 18, maybe like that. And there was a big network which TCS people were setting up that point of time, and TCS was very small and just getting into it at that time. Big pager network, and I was taking, my uh, my I was called from Aptech corporate office to train these people, and all of them were like 35, 40. And when I entered the class, they were all looking at me and like, who's this guy who's gonna
Wow.
teach us about something?
Wow.
And for the first hour or two, these guys, and this was a 3-day, 4-day module they were mandated to do, because they all had to know, because most of at that point of time, most of them were electrical engineers and mechanical engineers and stuff, so they had to know about computers, right? And they had to know about networking, because they were going to set pagers, mobile networks and stuff, and this was big. And then after a couple of hours, they realized that I'm a subject matter expert in my own subject. Maybe I'm young, but we made good friends with most of the people, and I think we spent a lot of evenings together, talking about what they were doing versus what I was doing. So I think that these were very interesting experiences, which give you a lot of exposure at that young age. So that helped a lot. I don't recommend people to just leave their studies and do what I did, but that was what made sense for me at that point of time. But, I think professional education, like I said, I realized is very important. So I did that in after doing what I was doing, or in parallel. I've done multiple executive educations. Even recently I did one year program from Stanford. So, but I've
Wow.
continued to do that, continue to learn. But it's not about just doing what the framework has been defined for you. So sometimes you got to break away from the framework. Not everybody will be successful, but if you're convinced that you don't want to follow the framework which has been set for you, do something that you like. But I think the education system now is much better. The IB education, and all that is opening up in India as well. Not in smaller cities, but I think
True.
in metros it is happening, and over the few years it will happen. But I think we ourselves got to drive that change.
So I think I would say I've seen a lot of people who have struggled a lot to find out their passion, and I think you found that passion at a very early stage of life. I mean, at the age of 17 and 16, and you started knowing what you actually love to do, and there's no surprise why you have actually you know uh, succeed in your life, because of the fact that you from a very early stage of life you knew, and you started doing something which was unorthodox, because that was, I would say, that was against the education system at that time. And I mean it is still a fact that in India, this is something which is considered to be a normal. In Indian society, what we do basically, our families teaches us to just go ahead and go to school, listen to our parents, attend the college, and then go and do the job. Don't listen to yourself. That's pretty much a normal cycle.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
don't say that that is not a good life, and I don't even recommend that it is not a good life. But what really happens that during this phase of life, when you are actually listening to other people, following others advice, and doing everything what others says, you actually lose your voice. You actually some way don't listen to yourself. But
Yeah.
congratulations to you, sir. I mean, I would say you have been passionate to do what you love to do from the very early stage. I just wanted to know, because this is the first time that I knew about this aspect of your life. So how did you, I mean, how did you get started? What has actually brought your attention to the computers and the technology? Because I have a lot of friends in my network who are very, I would say, reluctant to the technology. They I mean, get when it comes to coding, when it comes to solving anything technical, they say, "Dosi, I mean, it is not a piece of cake. I mean,
Sure.
it is not a cup of tea, I would say." So, how did you get interested? What caught your interest, and what made you interested into all this technology at a very early stage of life?
So, so I'll give you, a very candid answer to this, right? So, we didn't have many options at that point of time, right? So, what could you be interested in, right, at that point of time? So, and I could never do coding. I can't do coding to save my life. So, the point is, I got interested in separate parts, which is, setting up networks and managing servers and stuff like that. It got
Mm,
me interested because, this was something which was not getting done,
mm,
this was something which wasn't available at all, at that point of time, and it was something which was more practical, not philosophical, theoretical. And like I said, it's very individual or personal. Your passion is very personal to yourself, right? No
right.
two people can share the same level of passion, and that passion grew into completely something else. I did this work for maybe about 4 or 5 years. I didn't continue with doing that. So if I'd continued doing that, I would have been in, the same field. But I left that field. I
Mm,
went into, completely into products, then, strategy, and then marketing, and then, sales,
mm,
like I said. So, it's not about, just your passion and just continuing with that. Your passion also changes with time, right? As you
true.
grow, through the journey of your life, you realize that something which you've done, you can build on top of that. So I took
Mm,
my experiences which I had and used them in
correct.
a completely different way, right? So, so I joined my first professional job after, completing my graduation. I think in, 2000 or 99 or 2000 it was, with Wipro, right? So that was the first professional job, till the time I was doing, my college as well as my, trainings and stuff like that. When I moved to Wipro, I did for a couple of years, and then at Convergys, I did for, a few years. I think about 2006, 2007, I completely, changed my field. Before, when I joined, the startup ecosystem at that point of time. So, it evolves. For me, that wasn't
Mm,
interesting anymore, right? And that is what I said in 2005, 2006. I was taking a break, and I said, okay, let's just, go do an executive MBA somewhere, or do, something else, because this has become now where you could get to with this particular field. So
mm,
it's also realizing that you cannot stick to your passion forever, the same passion. Maybe, it helps in certain fields if you're, especially, if you're if you're a professional, you're an artist, you're a footballer, you're a, cricket player, that helps. You can stick with those kind of things for life. But, even within those, if you talk about IT or technology, it's a massive field, right?
it's a
So,
mass. Yeah.
like, take an example of cricketers. They need to, the batsmen need to evolve their, the batting styles, bowlers need to
Commentator.
evolve. There are
Right.
all rounders. There's fielding which is coming in. Nobody had, heard about, everybody being a good fielder in the entire team, right? Wasn't there. All rounders concept, existed, but it existed to a very, very few people, you know, in the earlier times. But now you have so many people, wicketkeeper, batsmen, it happened just now. So I think, take take examples from, so people, and you got to reskill yourself, on an ongoing basis, keep studying about new things. I continue to do that. So, so that knack of understanding and studying, I haven't left. So that's one of the things I can't do. Maybe, people started using a word, after Tarazami dyslexic. I don't still understand what it is, but I cannot read physical books. For me, my life started with computers because I could do things easier, right?
Hmm.
So listening to videos, listening to whatever I studies I do. I never study physical books, right? I had to
Hmm.
do it once initially for my MCSE, which is I think probably the only time I would have done it. That was more practical, I would say. But after that, my life has been all on computers, or I can't read physical books at all. That's a problem I have. So, and I wouldn't say I'm dyslexic because it's a big word. I have no idea. I've never gone to a doctor. But the point is, it's just I can't concentrate when I'm reading. It's I'm not built for that. Some people love reading. Like my son, he loves reading. He's got a full library at home, and every day he reads two books. He's still
Yeah.
reading. He's not reading the real stuff right now. He's 10, but he's still reading a lot of comics. But still, okay, he's got a habit of reading. I couldn't.
Habit of it.
Yeah.
I
True.
think he's going to be a good friend of us. We both love reading books.
Yeah. I
So,
think
Excellent. Excellent.
there are individuals who love doing certain things, right? For me, I love exploring. I love doing practical things. I would go in the field and do that, stuff which is there. So, and also, listen to people talk. I would love to hear your experiences about yourself or others. But listening to people, what is happening in the market, listening to things gives you a lot of different knowledge about things,
perspective, yeah.
understanding. And like in business, the first thing I recommend to anybody, and I'm sure we'll come to that part later, but first go listen to your customers. Don't do anything which
Absolutely.
your customers don't want. So that's the kind of approach which has helped me a lot.
I
So,
think,
yeah. So one point which you brought, that you keep on learning certain things, as you say that just recently you have completed 1 year course from very well-known university. So in actually in one of our Q&A session, somebody asked us that, so what do you think? What's the importance of certifications in someone's career,
hmm,
or somebody just should keep on collecting certificates, or how exactly, what is your perspective about this?
See, for me, and I'll tell you, there are, we're still not over that certificate thing, and it's not going away. There is a ranking system. There is a system which has been built over hundreds of years.
hmm,
It's slowly changing, right? So, will I tell somebody don't do a course or don't do a certificate or don't do a degree or something at this point of time? Maybe not, because you know unless you found something which you want to do which is not related to studies at all. For example, if you're good in cricket, sports, or in anything else, do that. But studies, again, play a very, very important role. But you can choose what you want to study, right? Study
Hmm.
what you like. It's very, very important. Don't keep collecting certificates, because certificates are useless. That they carry no value, but your knowledge carries a
hmm,
lot of value. But the knowledge has to
Exactly.
be supported by and this is the age we live in right now. And I think big leaders like Elon Musk and all, that keep talking about that we don't ask for degrees anymore. We don't, but it's still happening. If you go
hmm,
to any big company today, you want a job, they will first look at your professional qualifications or your academic qualifications and say, okay, have you done X, Y, Z or not? It is still happening. So at least for the next few years, you will have to you know go with the
hmm.
flow, have your basics right, have your graduation, have your master's degree if you want. It hasn't gone away yet. Will it go away, or should it go away? Maybe it should. Maybe I would like my kid to be taught a lot more practical stuff you know than still it is right now. But it has become much, much better as compared to what it was.
But then how do you choose that what you want to learn? Because most of the people, unfortunately, once they enter into their professional life or their corporate life, they most of the people, they stop learning, they stop reading books, or watching some online courses and gaining knowledge. So the point is, you are a learner, I think, as you mentioned that you keep on learning new things. So what is your criteria? I mean, basically, how you decide that, okay, now I want to learn this, I want to learn that? Because nowadays the challenge is to decide that what I want to do, or what kind of knowledge I want to
So
gain,
yeah, so
because there
Piyush,
are lots and
your
lots of
point
knowledge
your
is there.
point is
Yeah.
valid. I think there are two questions which come out of your point. One is, early in your, career, right? Now you're going in and you say, you make a choice. Should I take commerce or science, or, and then it moves from there, right? So you got to choose. Then, these decision points come at multiple stages. Then you're going for
Correct.
college. What kind of college degree do I have? What kind of, academic qualifications do I have? Then you come into your professional life, and then within your professional life, how do you grow, right?
Right.
So one thing you gotta uh, do for me is believe in your heart. Go along with it. Don't get into pressure of people that you have to do this. You have to follow a certain path. And it's not wrong to change a path sometimes,
Hmm.
right? One of the
Very
pressures
true.
I've seen in India specifically, right, is you have to complete your 12th. If you flunk once, this happens. If you are, then you have to go and do your college. If you're even if a kid who is 16, 17, 18 takes a year extra, it doesn't kill him in the long run. And I'm telling you, I'm being very, very honest, frank here. For me,
Absolutely.
my son, is like, going to school. If he, one year, if he misses of his life at this point of time, it will not make a big difference in the, 30, 40 years he has to,
Mm.
he has to work, right? That is not making a difference, right? We have people at different levels and different ages, in corporates. Some of them are very young, some of them are very old, some of them we all work together. Nobody asks you in a corporate world what your age is, right? Typically, it doesn't happen, right? So, it will, it's not necessary to be a part of that rat race. So
Mm.
let it continue, let it flow. If you want to take time to decide what you want to do, take your time sometimes. And I'm not saying this you have to skip, or don't take it incorrect. But what I'm saying is, and follow your heart, follow what you like doing, and it might change with time, right? So you
Hmm.
might make mistakes and learn from your own mistakes and move on and act on that. Now, especially on the professional part, which is your second part, and this was the early part of the career, you know there's nothing wrong in changing your careers, or the field you've taken multiple times. If you're liking something, do continue, pursue it. If you like something, you will automatically want to learn more about it. If you don't like
Yeah.
something, you would not want to learn more. So that means if you've
Absolutely.
taken a subject and you don't want to learn in that subject, learn something else which interests you. So, and maybe you've
Hmm.
reached
Mm.
a plateau there where you're saying, okay, I am now done with this particular thing. Let me look for another change, right? So ultimately, and it's not about jack of all trades or master of one trade. It doesn't matter. You got to learn life skills, right? So you can
Hmm.
do multiple things at a point of time. If you aspire to be a CEO of a company one day, you have sales, marketing, XYZ, everything. You need to have some knowledge about all of these. So it's not necessarily that I am marketing guy, I only need to know marketing. I'm IT guy, I only need to do IT. So those kind of things, and whatever helps you, whatever works for you. I think do it that way. That's what I would suggest.
I think don't find the passion, let the passion find you.
But
I
Yeah,
mean,
makes
I
but
sense, and keep looking for a passion. There's no harm in doing that
yeah,
also. And I don't
yeah,
want to
yeah,
cut you off
absolutely.
here, but
absolutely.
what I'm saying is, do what you feel like. Follow your heart. I think
Mm.
it'll take you where you intend to go. you know when you follow your heart more than your brain, it takes you to the right direction. I feel like doing this, I'm happy doing this. If reading something gives you happiness, do it. If watching something gives you happiness, do it. What gives you more happiness, right? Again, and it could change. For example, that my son, he's 10, but he has his own YouTube channel right now. He
Wow.
loves
Wow.
doing it. He can edit videos, create videos, and he's counting his subscribers. Dad, I've got 20 subscribers. He started with, now he's got 150 subscribers, and then he's like, I'm gonna make money when I reach 1,000 subscribers. So he loves doing it. So he's doing what he's doing, and I won't stop him from doing it. Though I cut his screen time, that he should not be playing
Absolutely.
a lot
Mm.
of Fortnite or whatever games it is and all that. But he loves making videos and content and stuff like that. So if he likes that, and he might change next year, he might say, oh, I've got to go to film. It's okay, right? Let the kids experiment, and this is the kid stage. And even when you grow up, you got to continue being a kid. You need to
Absolutely.
experiment like kids do, in your work and in your professional profile as well.
I think that's the biggest problem that as we grow in life. When we were kid, we had a lot of curiosity. When we were very resilient. Take an example that when we learned how to
Hello.
bicycle, I mean how to ride a bicycle, probably
Yeah.
we've fallen many times, but we never stopped learning the bicycle. So I think we need to continue with all of the ingredients, the attributes that we had in the child, and let it continue, because that's how
And
we grow.
and
Yeah,
most of the people do it naturally. What happens is, maybe somebody asks you a question, I don't want to do it. Maybe he's doing something else, because it's your human brain, you can't stop it. It has
yeah.
to absorb knowledge. That knowledge could be book knowledge, that could be or somebody likes watching Netflix. It's okay. You don't want to grow in your professional career, it's fine, watch Netflix. So but your brain, as you grow, you need to, it has to process information. It can't stop, right? So whatever information you give them, just turn it to your advantage. So
That's
But
really great and deep.
one point which you said, which is very correct. And most of the people just so let's say if they have an experience of a certain industry of 4 5 years, then if they are not happy, they have to change their career, they have to change their field, they have to change their industry. But this change is very painful, very much challenging for most of the people. They don't want to come out from their comfort zone, which they have started living because of those 4 5 years of experience.
this entire thing is built into our minds from when we were a kid, right? And it is very difficult for, especially for us Indians, right? And even the Indian
Hmm.
subcontinent, I would say, not only just us Indians, right?
True, true.
We were taught to do things in a certain way, and there was a right or a wrong,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
That was there. Then there was a career path which was designed. You have to, and before us, even during our time, you have to go either become an engineer or a doctor or go into a government job or do this or do that. This is designed, right? You were completely siloed there. Now that thing you would see changing a lot more in this generation which is coming up. But you were saying, kids, today, I would say, learn from them. Try and do things differently. Don't let your, inner kid die. Let it continue. So the point is, and people, don't be afraid of, changing your career. And I've seen a lot of people. I've met a lot of people who want to continue doing the same thing again and again. But it's not just them. They have, they realize that, the risk will be too much for me, and people are inherently, you know, good, and they do good for what they feel inside. Now, they might have a background of, how will this impact my family? How will this, do this? And typically, what happens for us is we get married early, right? So a lot of us, and this is changing now. You have responsibilities. You have your parents. You have this. So I've got 5 years of experience, but now I'm looking to buy a house. And you've got yourself stuck in so many things which are materialistic. You cannot take that risk.
True.
So
Absolutely.
somewhere you need to keep that in mind, that what are the things which are stopping you, list those things down and say what will get impacted and how. And don't take a big risk. I'm not saying change your work industry itself, right? Build on top of whatever you have learned, right? Learn a new skill, build on top of whatever you've been doing. So that will help a lot. Don't completely scrap something which you've done for 5 years, 10 years. It may not help, but build on top of a new skill set on top of whatever you have.
I think
Absolutely.
it's really profound. And you know, one thing that anybody can learn easily from you is that change is very necessary in life. Change is the only constant. I mean, one thing on the same line, Ravi sir. I mean, I just wanted to ask you. As Piyush also said that at times when you become stagnant in your existing role, you kind of create a bubble around you, and started living that normal life. And when you try to take a step beyond that, you feel it is very difficult. And but contrary to that, you have managed so many changes. So I wanted to know, I mean, how was your experience? How did you manage those transition period, and how did you do that? What was your mindset at that time?
See, for me, I think inherently when and I've gone through a lot of ups and downs in my life, right? One thing I always kept with myself and in any job is that I never even read the job description of what I was supposed to do, right?
Wow.
I am supposed to contribute to an organization in whatever way I can. In many cases, I've got a feedback that you overstep, you get into somebody else's territory and all that. You can't be territorial in work, right? So I've found things which are not working, even if I was responsible for them or not. make sure you fix those things, make sure you address them. So what you gotta do is, and that is how you get learning, because it's related. If you're doing what you're supposed to do, you'll never get out of that bubble, right? But if you're looking at things
Mm.
around which are adjacent to that, smaller things which are adjacent to that. I'll give you a very interesting, very very simple example, right? I started my career, as an IT technician in Lupton, right? So that was, we had this, and there was my first site was Max New York Life. They were setting up their India office. Insurance was coming big. CP they had taken an office, so I was placed there. So I went there, and then there was a network which was set up by somebody because there was an implementation. And I was supposed to be an on-site engineer to fix the things, whatever was happening, right? The first thing I started looked at that was whatever was set up was very nicely done, but users was complaining about a few things I could fix, but how can you know resolve those problems from happening? It wasn't a part of my job that time. It was organized. There was a problem management team, there was this team, there was this. How can you do a lot more which is not your domain? Take initiative in that. you know and I actually,
Mm.
very interestingly, at that point of my career, I started selling insurance also. So that's a very,
Wow.
very. I didn't talk about that, but that's a very
Not
interesting
many people
chapter of
would
my
know
life.
about that.
So I actually, I got bored of doing this, stuff there. I was like, what am I doing? I'm fixing computers. Let's do something. And then I was like, okay, let's. These people around me are selling insurance. Good money, great product. Let's do. So I left my job as a pro, and I became a agent for Max New York Life Insurance. I signed up. I did that for a few months, and then I joined the process. I came back to my own field, but it was more like, coming back to the earlier point. It was more like, going out of your own comfort zone and domain
Mm.
and fixing something which you
Mm,
want to do. But
absolutely.
it's also experimenting. For me, an IT guy who is fixing computers did not have a lot of value in that domain, where there were tons of sales managers and the country managers, and they were very very experienced people. But I had to try my hands with sales, so that was my first experience with sales. Selling insurance to people, and then I came back into my own field, but I came back as a better person because I did that for almost a year, and I was lucky enough to get jobs at that point of time. Coming back, sometimes it could be difficult that you leave a field and then you don't get back, but I was lucky enough. But I used that experience and even continued using that experience to deliver much more than what I'm expected to do. Innovate in whatever field you are in. Do a lot
Mm.
more in the field you are in, right? So you don't have to make a Tesla car, or that's not the only innovation in the world. Innovation can happen in every, you know even a very small part of your life. So innovate wherever you are.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think so. This is what I believe, and I tell most of the people that if you really want to, someday everybody wants to become businessman or they want to start their own business, and but the point is, if you don't know how to sell, then you cannot progress. I mean, sales is just not about selling a product or service. The sales says do it has to do a
It's a
lot
way
of
of life.
things. So
Yeah.
you had that sales guy experience first time, right? That then also you put yourself in a uncomfortable situation, and that is how you learned. But when you tell most of the people, then you need to sell this product or service, most
Mm.
of the people, they don't want to get into that uncomfortable
No, but a
situation,
lot of people are scared. A lot of people don't
exactly,
really want to face their, sales is very difficult, right?
exactly.
And in a lot of cases, people just say, "Oh, he's a sales guy." He's but
Actually,
going in front of somebody, calling somebody, sitting in front of somebody and selling. First, you have to sell yourself. Then you have to sell the product which is there. It's
true.
it's a very difficult element. I went to my during that insurance time. I went to my very close family members and said, they were like, "ये क्या कर रहा है? ये insurance. Why do we want insurance?" It was too early. अच्छा अच्छा बच्चा आया घर पे, तो you know let's do it. And I was like, नहीं, पहले you have to listen to what you're buying, because I'm not responsible for it tomorrow. But I think that getting out of your comfort zone is very important, and getting out of
Absolutely.
in the field, and which will help you a lot in this thing. Second point, if you want to start something, again, not a related point, but for me, it's very very important to start at the right time. and earlier
Mm.
the better, because you don't have all the baggage which you carry with you, later in your life, right? You're a youngster. If you start early, start, experiment, fail, it will teach you so much, you know and not everybody will succeed, but what you will learn out of that entrepreneurship. And I've been an entrepreneur, failed entrepreneur many times in my life, and I'll talk about some more interesting stuff I've done, in the middle. So not only did this computers, but me and my cousin, I think this was in '98 or something. We opened a advertising agency, and I had no clue about what
Oh,
an advertising agency was. Did it for 1 year. We used to print cards, we used to print ads, we used to, and that was print at that point of time. So photographs, professional, this thing. So we did very interesting stuff. So for me, it was continuing to change, enhance. So and uh, we kept changing, we kept playing around. Though I was continuing with my one track, which was always a common track, which was there, which was my computers and the studies that I was doing, and then what I love doing. But I did not stop from doing something else also in parallel at the side. Do it. If you have the passion, open something, maybe, and it succeeds. If it doesn't succeed, it'll teach you a lot.
true.
You know,
And on the same line, so because of the fact that you mentioned that you have obviously you have revealed that you have done so many things in your life, you have experimented a lot, and you did sort of your own businesses. And I can see on LinkedIn as well that I think you have been a founder of an organization as well.
yeah,
And so, and talking to you, I feel like that you know regardless of the fact that you are into 9 to 5, but you have that entrepreneurial mindset. And I think
Mm.
that is really important, because no matter whether you're working with any company or you're running your own organization, it is important to have that kind of a mindset. So
yeah.
so how did you build that? I mean, any incident in your life, I mean, you wanted to become an entrepreneur, or you wanted to continue to have that kind of, I mean, you had any kind of vision from your childhood that you want to become a businessman, or you want to?
Always,
Okay.
always, always. So even when I was a kid, I used to have, Bill Gates was the most famous, individual at that point of time, and especially because of my field and stuff. I always had, a dream, to become an entrepreneur, do something which, which is, which is completely different, right? And I tried things, so I kept trying things. And today in professionals, I think, when we hire people, we look for, people who are entrepreneurs in their own
Mm.
set. We don't go and hire founders, right? We look at
Correct.
people who take initiative, who are ready to drive their product, especially the domain I'm in. I'm in the product domain, right? Product managers for me are the biggest entrepreneurs. A product manager for us, manages a
Hmm.
business in itself, and he knows that this is my product. I have to run it. I have to build it from scratch. Then I have to sell it. Then I have to market it. Then I have to support it, and that's where I am. So my core is product. So that entrepreneurship stays alive with me, throughout my life. And this is something I carried, and I always follow. So that has helped me a lot.
That's pretty much reflect in what you do. I mean, as on the same line as I said, that it is not, you don't only become an entrepreneur when you actually do a business. You can have that kind of mindset. So that truly reflects.
Yeah, you can be an entrepreneur in any domain you're in, right? You
Yeah,
ultimately you're, in whatever field you're in, you're just, you're either creating something or you're selling something, or even if it's yourself. Even for interviews, you go
True.
for interviews just trying to sell yourself. Because,
Absolutely.
people are there looking at you, not your CV, not your just what you've done. People now look at individuals, and I think that has changed a lot over a period of time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
a lot of
So
value,
then, yeah, yeah,
and I
absolutely.
think people who are watching us, they would definitely be learning a lot of things from these golden nuggets that Ravi sir is sharing. And I think you know this is the reason that when you talk with somebody, when you have such kind of discussions one on one, when you look at somebody's CV, somebody's performer, I mean, you cannot have a true picture of somebody's life. Probably you would know that that person is very successful, but I mean, talking to Ravi sir, I mean, I can say that it's a stamp on the paper that everybody has ups and downs in the life, and that's how people learn, and that's how people grow. So I mean, really commendable, and thank you so much for sharing your story, sir. And I'm sure people who are listening to us, they would be benefiting a lot. And we would definitely love to take a question at the end of the session. Yeah, Piyush.
So,
Yeah, so then, sir, I mean, how your career progressed? You are how long you have been staying in Dubai, and how things happened after that in
so
your
I've been
career
in Dubai for
progression.
4 years. Before that I was in Gurgaon. But my previous organization, in fact, I was in IOG, and then I did something on my own, which was in the field of IoT and stuff. But I think when I was in IOG, I think my job was mostly global product development as well as sales. So I knew a lot of people across the world, made good connections and stuff, and that's how I moved here. It's been a very interesting change. I think it's a big change because I've been kind of working with smaller companies, building things myself. Even though Convergys was a large organization in India, but it was much smaller as compared to Islam. So it's been a big change for me, coming here. I think so working with a $50 billion organization versus working with a smaller organization, not counting the number of people. But it's a completely different change. But I think what is also happening is this is a very interesting time for very large organizations as well, right? Everybody's
Hmm.
trying to transform. Everybody's trying to become agile. Everybody's, there are frameworks coming out of this, right?
Hmm.
Everybody's trying to, uh, do things faster,
Innovate.
better, but and that gives opportunity to a different breed of individuals who are there, right? Who are, we've been talking about entrepreneurship. I think, that is where the preference for people when you hire is somebody who can come in, build something, build a business for us within a business. I think that is becoming very, very important. Or, if he's running a business which is very set, very stable, he can grow it. He can actually make a difference to it. He can improve the customer experience. So I think the expectation from people are also changing, and people at all levels, and all organizations are understanding the importance of making sure that you're very agile, very fast, very quick. So that's happening. But I think it's been a very, very interesting journey for me. I never wanted to move out of India. I got many, many opportunities throughout my career. Many opportunities. Here in US and in Europe. I never wanted to. I always said no. But yeah, it was a downturn from my side. Which is again a very interesting story. After you know, Tasif, I don't know till when we were with Ayogi, the company went down.
Yeah.
It went bankrupt. I stayed with them till almost the end. I was probably the third, fourth, last employee to leave. Like
Oh,
I
so when
joined.
did you leave, by the way, sir?
I left. I think so. I left 2015 to 2017. I was engaged. I was doing my own startup, but I was working, very closely, there with the founders as well, to see
Mm.
if we can revive something and all. So 2 years this was this overlap where I was working on my startup, and this was happening at the same time. 2017, I moved out of, completely disengaged my own startup.
Mm.
From 16 onwards, I was, very disengaged from my own. You know, but that point of time and doing a startup of your own at that point of time, and we all had big expectations from what we would achieve, after the company went public and stuff, which is what was happening live at that point of time. So big plans that we all going to get rich, and then we can do startups. Didn't happen. So when I moved here, I was in bad, crazy amount of debt. So moving to Dubai wasn't an option. I was first 2 years, after I moved here, I was just paying off my debts. So that was very interesting, and I can't disclose the amount of debt I had, but it was like it was kind of like 2x of my previous salary in India. So there was no other option but to pay that off, and that's what I did for the first 2 years. So
I
so
think.
ups and downs are a part of life. You cannot give up
Absolutely.
because something has happened. I've gone down, you know to I won't say nothing, to minus so many times. It has happened. But no, it hurts you when you're married, you have kids, you have family, you have liability. So can I take the same amount of risk which I could take 15, 20 years back? Maybe not. Even 5 years back, the risk I could take, I can't take it now. So I think that your risk appetite reduces as your responsibilities grow. So,
Hmm.
so
Mm.
take risks early. If your viewers are young people, students, take risks. This is your time. You will see so many people. Why does US have so many people who drop out from colleges and stuff? Because at that point of time, you can take the risk. You don't care. You can live in a one-bedroom apartment, or share with five people. Open your office in a garage and all that. You can't do all that when you're 40, 50. And people do it that age also, because then by the time you've made money, and now you're settled, so you want to experiment. But that mid age is something, your risk appetite keeps going down as you grow into this corporate ladder. And then it's so you got to make sure that you're taking the risk at the right time.
So,
I
as
definitely.
Ravi sir, you have worked with Indian companies, and then from last 4 years you are into Dubai. So, what should be, or what could be that one thing which you have found completely different? That one thing which should be implemented, or it might be a kind of an advice for Indian companies which you have found while working in Dubai.
I
What
think
could be
I wanted
that?
to ask the same question.
I would take it the other way around. So for me, I've always worked
Yeah,
with companies which I wanted to work
absolutely.
for. I've always been with the startups. I've always been engaged in very agile, fast-moving companies. That's something which companies outside could learn from Indian companies. Indian companies now, and if you look at today, and maybe next 10 years, it's the time for India, right? The amount of growth you will see happening in the Indian company is something which is you won't have seen anywhere in the world. The amount of intellectual capital from India which is coming into the market, which was actually everybody was used to do IIT IIM go outside. That's not happening anymore, right? Even next generation entrepreneurs are coming from not from IIT IIMs. It is still happening. You'll see a lot of the startups till date. They get funded much faster than anybody else who's not from IIT IIM. That is happening still. That's something I really don't like, but. But seriously, that's going to change. So the advice is for any company today is first listen to your customer. The most important thing, be in the center of what your customers want, create solutions which benefit your customers, and be agile, fail fast. These are the two things. If you implement them, you know they are very, very important, because if you listen to your customer, your product will be fitting your customer needs, right? And if it doesn't once, you will go back to the customer again, experiment, build it again, fail again, and you'll continue to do that. It's an iterative process. So that's the advice. I would not compare geographies, right? I've had roles where I've interacted, worked with companies from almost everywhere in the world, right? So I've worked with companies in US, UK, all of Europe, Germany, France. Most of the operators, Chinese companies, Dubai. So I've had a lot of international exposure over the last 10 to 15 years. But you cannot single out India versus outside, right? It's the methodology which most of the companies need to follow. That's very important. I think Indian companies are doing all the right things. They've got all this kind of skill set. There is an opportunity available today. If there are some young budding entrepreneurs on this call, please go ahead, do it now. Now is the time. This time would not come back in 10 years. This is the maybe you're a few years late, but if you're just getting out of college, or you just in first few years of your job, go ahead, take some do something, create something, solve some real business world or real customer problem, and I think you'll succeed.
I think
That's
that's
very
really right. And
interesting.
Piyush, if you remember, I think we were having a conversation with somebody that, somebody was talking to move out of India or probably cater to global customers. And then, somebody advised out of India that why are you going to the, world customer? I mean, looking at the global customer. You are sitting on a gold mine. I think it was Dave sir who was talking about this. Looking into it. I think when we asked this question from Ravi sir, because he's sitting out of India, he know what's I mean, it's all about when you're sitting inside the jar, you don't know what is happening inside in outside of the jar. But when you're outside of the jar, you have the world view. So I think
Yeah,
he is absolutely right when it comes to evolution and the innovation which is happening in India, and this pandemic, this disruption which has happened in last few months. I think it has changed a lot. It is going to change the traditional way and how we do the how we serve our customers. How we our education system and everything is going to get changed for sure. So I think I definitely agree with what Ravi sir has said.
So, Ravi sir, after this pandemic, or it was definitely a very much challenging situation for most of the companies. So, what sort of new things or solutions which you have implemented in your company to, survive in such kind of situation?
I think our company, I would say, we have implemented, because our company obviously it's a very large organization. One thing which we have learned is that, like, you use the word 9 to 5. We are a very 9 to 5 organization, right? Reach office at 8:30 in the morning or 8 in the morning and leave by,
Mm.
evening, and make sure you're in office, all
Yeah.
that. I think what we have all learned is that we can work from wherever we are. That's a very important point, and I think everybody keeps
Mm.
talking about it. Do you need that physical presence? I think there has to be right balance. Uh,
Mm.
we keep hearing, a lot of studies are coming. Leaders saying different things. Somebody believes that remote working doesn't help innovation. Somebody believes the other way around. You know, there has to be right balance. For example, I still miss sitting with my team and whiteboarding something and creating something. Right? Our tools are still not there. It will be.
Mm.
Mm.
With the period, how the technology is evolving, I'm sure that you'll have your virtual avatars doing a lot. You know that will happen, but you'll still miss the physical touch. The remote working, has completely changed. The way businesses will operate in the future, and for that also
Mm.
we have had to, and we are a part of the B2B division, right? So my customers are B2B. So a lot of my,
Okay.
our customer profiles have changed, because our customers are moving out of their offices and going home. Now, who will buy internet connection? Who will buy, all the other stuff which we are building for these guys? So I think we have to evolve our products and services as well to cater to people what we are selling, uh, to enable them to work from wherever they are. So that's the biggest thing which is happening, right? And second is a big, very important factor is culture and trust.
Okay.
A lot of
Mm.
organizations, you know, always worked on this hierarchical system of managing people, right? And
Mm.
this is happening all across. It's not just happening here. Massive organizations, you have XYZ number of people, you have this task, you have to finish this. It's a task orientation which was happening. That has moved to trust, right? So, we can call it trust orientation, not task orientation. It's like, you're
Wow.
trusting somebody, you do your job well, wherever you are. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be logged in it, So that factor is changing, and the mindset, we trust a, our people a lot more than we used to trust, right? And I
Mm.
myself used to do it when I moved here. There was, and I would call people, "Acha, kahan par hai? You haven't reached office. Itna baj gaye." Now that has
Mm.
changed, right?
True.
Just a few years back, I was in that mindset, right? What happened? I still get annoyed if somebody doesn't show up at all and is playing with the system, but that mostly you trust people that they will do what they're supposed to do and they will deliver what they will deliver. So that has changed.
Mm.
Absolutely, and I think
True.
that's very true. And this analogy of trust orientation is something that is new to us.
Yeah,
and and
absolutely.
and business is all about creating trust. Instead of believing and having a transactional relationship, let's have a long-term relationship, because it's all about what kind of a relationship and a strategic alliance you have, and the trust that you have, that actually give you the favorable outcome that you're looking for. And what you have spoken about, Ravi sir, I mean, in I'm working with BT, there have been a lot of clients. We also have B2B businesses and a lot of global clients who were in airline industry. They have faced a massive you know transformation. They had to do a lot of transformation because their revenue went down, because of the airline industry is one of the leading
Yeah.
industry which has suffered out of those five industries. So
True.
I mean, and because of the fact that they have suffered, so we as in service provider had to change, change our stance, change the way we used to work, change our policies, or it doesn't really matter that what we have defined in the contract obligation, but it was really important for us to define and actually be there when it was really required for our customers. So I
And
think.
that's the most important thing, like I was saying, be with your customer, and I think a
Yes.
lot of you bring up on a very important point. most of the companies have also learned to respect their customer and put themselves in the customer's shoes, because
True.
now they understand what it is to go through a pandemic together. Earlier, we've
Yeah.
seen industries getting affected, right?
Yeah.
Steel industry getting affected, or this industry getting, or that industry. These downturns were always coming, right? But they were coming in a industry or a country or whatever it is. But
Yeah.
now, through the global pandemic, you realize that none of us, is is
Deprived of.
basically, we are
Yeah.
all yeah, we can all fall prey of anything which can go wrong. So we need to work with each other, especially with our customers. Very, very important.
I think I think because of pandemic, the most positive thing has happened is we all have become more empathetic
Yeah,
towards
yeah,
each
absolutely,
other,
Yeah. Absolutely.
absolutely,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
because it's a time where
It's a
we
fact.
have to help each other. Otherwise, as a human
So,
species, we are not going to survive at all.
no, but I think what, and it's a very good conversation to have, because I personally have always believed since I was a childhood that all humans are inherently good. They are nice,
Yes,
right?
I do
It's the
believe. I do believe.
circumstances which make them good or bad or evil, or are our definitions of good or bad or evil is completely different,
Absolutely,
right? But
absolutely.
and then what happens is, and during these kind of times, you see, all of this coming together, right? Which is very, very important. That things fall in place when something goes wrong. When things are going successful in the right direction, we always used to say when everything is going right, people support you, and people don't do it. But now what we have learned is when things go wrong, people are standing there for you. You see a lot more people standing there for you when something is going wrong, and this is what we've learned. We become more empathetic, we understanding other people's problems. We understand what somebody else is going through. So I think that's a very important learning.
So in fact, this
Definitely.
say on this. Sorry, Tausif. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the
I mean,
same.
go
Yeah.
ahead, please.
Go ahead. So in this same topic, Captain Raghuraman, he has shared something very profound that so he has compared that why in army or why in in corporates, when you compare the relationship between colleagues, why army people have more stronger relationships. So he said something really profound that a relationship which formed at the time of crisis is
Yeah.
always
Is the best of
stronger.
relationship.
No, no, if you have a
And
trusted life on somebody, it has to be that trust continues.
absolutely
No, because if you don't trust the soldier who's next to you or your officer, and
true.
the officer says go and march, they march. The point is, it's very important to trust the guy. If you don't trust him, with your life, then
Absolutely.
yeah.
So
So
in this
that's what it is.
pandemic also, you say that when somebody is not showed up at office and somebody is coming late to office, we used to shout on them. But now
Yeah,
everybody is working from home.
things have
We
changed.
have to trust each other. Otherwise,
You don't have any
it is
option.
not going to happen.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, Ravi said it. This discussion has been so intense and so useful that we lost track of time, and
Yep.
we didn't realize that it's almost already 1 hour, and I'm really thankful to you. I have a couple of questions from the audience that that I already had even before this podcast, though. So one question is from somebody who's a friend of mine working in corporate. He said that what would be your one advice to somebody who is actually transforming himself from individual contributor to a people manager role, so or probably into a leadership role. So what would be that advice?
I think it's a very good question. The first advice I would have is to understand your people and start understanding really who you are working with. They are all people. So don't forget that word people manager, right? Forget the manager word, I would say. They are people. They are all individuals. Each individual is different. And somewhere, you need to connect with those people at different levels, right? Somebody likes something else, somebody likes something else. And, you can't make everybody happy, but you understand them. Once you understand them professionally, you can understand their skill sets. So it's very important to connect with people. If I have to name one, it's connecting with those individuals at an individual level and understanding, what their, aspirations are, what their skill sets are, what are they good at, what they're not good at. I think that's the most important thing for me. And then, there are other
Mhm.
things which can follow. But I think if you're able to do that, if you're able to work with them, empathize with them, work closely with them, I think you'll be successful.
I think it's pretty much answered the question. I mean, that is very important that don't forget the people. You can
Yeah.
probably forget the manager. I think that's really correct. Great. And another question that I had that I think I pretty much you have already answered in this episode, that what books do you prefer to read? So I think you already answered that. So that's pretty much
No, I
somebody.
don't. I'll take that question again. So it's for me. It's
Okay.
I can't read books, but I am. I love knowledge, right?
So
So
what
Hmm.
there are
what is
various.
your learning resource?
So I keep I'm very diversified in my learning resources. So if you look at my
Okay.
learning resources, typically people, like I love talking to people, understanding things. I have friends, for example, who now right now I'm learning about investing in share markets and funds,
Wow.
right? So that's what I'm focused around right now. Completely different from my field. I spend a lot of time with my friends. Read a lot about those things, or electronically, but so things, and again doing things, for example playing around and doing things. So it's knowledge doesn't come only from books. Books are a very important
Of
medium of
course.
learning, right? You can find the right medium, and I found right mediums which make sense for me. For me, doing is learning. If I'm interested in doing something, then I would rather do it and learn. So that's what I do. So if I have to learn about a car, I'll rather build a car and learn about a car. Rather than studying, I'll open it, break it, and then rebuild it or whatever. That's what I would do rather than just reading about it. But reading is very important. Sometimes you got to take specific subjects, and all these audiobooks are available now. For me, I do a lot of audiobooks. So
Oh,
Okay.
that is as good as reading books. Yeah. I mean, and I think it's a really good answer because you can't learn swimming by reading it into the books. So ultimately, you have to
Of
get into the
course.
water. So
yeah, you have to get your hands and feet dirty.
absolutely, and really,
Absolutely.
I think that pretty much answered the question. And Piyush, I think we could not go live on LinkedIn today because of certain
Some
technicality issues.
technicality issue, yeah.
We didn't want to stop, but again, because of the fact that we have this recording and we would love to share it with our LinkedIn audience and at our both of the handles. And finally, I would like to acknowledge our audience who have joined us and asked these beautiful questions, and really appreciate your time. And there have been a lot of number of people who've been there, and I'm pretty sure they have loved this session. And even before the session, I had a couple of questions that I have already asked Ravi sirs, and I would like to say massive thank you, Ravi sir, for actually giving us one hour of your life, precious moments with us, and I really appreciate it. Really humbled that you actually accepted our invitation and shared some of the very important lessons that probably I cannot forget, and probably we would love to share this video with the people, because this would always be lying there on our YouTube and on LinkedIn, and this can be revisited at any point of time, and it has been, I would say, a very important discussion, and I really enjoyed it.
In
Thank you
fact,
so much for your time. I think it was a pleasure, talking to
same
you
here,
guys.
sir.
I hope
Likewise.
people who see this, get some benefit out of it. You know, Not all of them, even if we can, it benefits one person. I think one person at a time, change happens
In fact, we would love to have you once again, sir,
whenever.
because 1 hour is not enough.
Yep, absolutely.
I think we haven't even covered your entire life story, but we understand in the interest of time, it's late night out there over here as well, and you know, I think your kid would be he would not spare us if we don't let you go. So so
Yeah,
I think he can connect with us. We do a lot of video editing, YouTubes and all. I think we
yeah,
work on the same line, so it would be interesting to
perfect,
know more about him. So thank you so
perfect,
much.
perfect.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you,
So
sir. Good
Thank you
night.
so much.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
thanks a lot, sir. Bye. Take care.